Okay, good evening everybody, and welcome to the Team 3R race series, the Tour of Sicily. This is the Queen stage, stage 8, so 2 more after this, and it's going to be a tough one. You can see from the profile, it lulls you into a false sense for the start, but then once you get to the bottom of the climb, there's no let up until you reach the finishing plateau after about 18 kilometers. So most riders are going to find this pretty hard, which is the way it should be. This is, as I say, this is the main stage of the whole tour, the Queen stage. Now Tim Cook is leading the competition. He's a few points out in front from the rest of the riders, but this is an opportunity to distance him tonight, because Tim is a slightly heavier rider, you won't mind me saying, and climbing is not really his strongest suit. He's more of a roller and a flat man, so we'll see what happens. Now, I'm not taking part in the race. As you can see, I'm wearing my World Bicycle Relief t-shirt, sat in my chair, and I'll be getting on the bike every 25 minutes to turn the pedals so that I don't get kicked out from the event. But apart from that, that's the only riding I'm going to be doing. So I'm looking forward to commentating and covering the race. And incidentally, the race is also being covered by ZMS, so there's a few people live streaming it tonight. I think it's going to be a pretty good race. It should be interesting anyway. We have 15 riders online at the moment. We might get 1 or 2 more before the race actually begins in 2 minutes. Let's hope so. But that's not a bad turnout for such a difficult stage. Now I'm going to try and stay with the race all the way through, coverage right to the end to get every rider coming in. I'm expecting the first riders to be round about the 115, 120 mark, and the last riders are going to be coming in well over the 130 mark, so it's that hard. But I hope everybody sticks with it and finishes the ride, because it's a classic. For those that don't know, it's Mount Etna in Sicily. This is called the Volcano Climb, and it's quite an iconic climb. It's been used in the Tour de France. Sorry, not in the Tour de France, in the Tour of Italy. My apologies. A couple of times. So yeah, it's a well-known climb. Now, I'm hoping everybody tonight that there isn't any flyers, that everybody is within the higher watt kilo, which is 3.2. Well advertised by myself and all the literature. So there's really no excuse if there's anybody here over 3.2 looking to pull the riders along. We've had a couple of flyers over the race series, but nothing too dramatic, and I think all in all it's gone pretty well. So as you can see, I'm going to have to jump on my bike now. It's almost ready to start, and then I'll pick up the commentary as soon as we get underway. Okay. So that should do us. As you can see, I'm pulling over to the side of the road, but if we get to the front of the race, you can see Tim and Evan are obviously going to try and make the best of this start, because it is fairly gentle, although you can see there's a slope here, but it's only a very short slope, and then you're into a little bit of a downhill and then the flat plains before you can see the blue section on the profile. I'll highlight it with the mouse here. Now that blue indicates downhill, and you can see they're on a slight downhill now. Well, I'm saying slight downhill, it looks pretty good actually, 5%. So I don't know who this Yarosh is, but Tim is definitely trying to make the best of the start. Let's swing the camera around. Evan's just off the back of them, but we swing the camera. Oh, they've actually managed already to get a bit of a gap. Now that's probably sensible tactics, because the heavier riders are really going to suffer once we actually do get to the climb. So this is not unexpected that riders like this, Tim, would want to push off the front. I think Evan will come back to them and maybe they'll try to push away. But I'm going to work my way back down the field and we're going to have a look and see who's behind Evan. Yeah, so you've got Hulselmans, Chris Little, and I'm surprised actually that Librex allowed them to go. But perhaps they were caught unaware, these three, because I don't think normally they would have struggled to stay with the leaders. And I think they'll make up the time once we start getting into the climb proper. So we'll see. And behind them you've got Steve Noble. And again, I'm surprised that Steve was caught out by that move. Jay Goldberg, can't recall whether we've seen Jay Goldberg in the series before. Doesn't ring a bell to me, but I've got such a poor memory. And obviously Gary Birch and Purdon have been here before. Now Purdon, I think, was one of the riders no, we'll leave it for now because he's at the back. And then Eric Boniver. Now, there's me at the back, obviously. You've got, but I'm wondering about Verini. Hasn't managed to start. So I don't know about Verini. And the others are obviously the cameras. These are ZMS and the cameras. So we'll get back to the action. Don't know why Eric is not really cycling here. Is he on the downhill? No. He's not really putting in a big effort here, but we'll see. Now, Purdon, I'm glad to see him riding at the back because I think he's a rider that's over the watt kilos. Now, if I'm wrong, I apologise, but I do seem to think. Although no, I'm thinking of somebody else. My apologies. It's not Purdon. It's somebody with a very similar name that's been asked not to spoil the race. So here we go. We got Goldberg and Noble. Now there's certainly time for these riders to get back to Little and Librex up the road. So don't expect these positions to stay as they are. As you can see, they're actually catching up with Hulselmans now. And yeah, and you can see they're not far behind the leaders. So it's going to come together, and I expected that, to be honest. I was quite surprised when I saw that Tim had shot off the front and got a gap. Although I did expect him to keep it going at least till that big downhill, but it looks like the rest of the the rest of the pack are aware of what he's trying to do here, which is to get a bit of a head start on the climb, because he knows he's going to lose positions on this big climb. And this is the kind of climb normally on mixed climbs Tim can hold his own, and he's done very well. I think his poorest position has been fourth in the other mountain stage. So that's pretty impressive for a non-climber, because he's quite strong. But this stage today, I think we'll see him out of the top 5, purely and simply because you can see from the profile, there's no real let-up until the 2/3 point, and then the let-up is only small and it kicks up again. So a non-climber is really going to suffer on this stage. But I know Tim, and I know he's now one of my teammates, but I know he's going to give it everything. So he'll certainly not be slacking on the climb, that is for sure. I don't know who this Yarosh is. And the RGTDB website isn't working. When you click on events, it says no data to show. The results section looks to be working properly, but the events section doesn't. So I don't know what's going on there. I can't actually check on the riders, which I usually do. I usually log on early enough and then check on the riders. And then if they are clearly over 3.2, I ask them to leave. But I'm gonna give everybody the benefit of the doubt tonight, because nobody's really pulling off the front. These 4 are looking good together. So let's check on what's happening behind them and how far. Now, Chris Little is 230 metres behind, and there's no reason why Chris can't pull this back. No reason whatsoever. He's a slightly, I think he's a slightly bigger rider. So, yeah, I'd expect to see him come back to the others. Although, what you have to realise, if we just go back to them, 4 riders will always pull out a gap on a single rider behind, purely because of the drafting and the changes in the man at the front doing the work. And there's 100 metres between Chris Little and Ivo Librex. So, yeah, we'll see what happens there. I think this is all going to change around when we get to the foothills of the climb, and may even by the time we reach the climb, there's a gradual uphill until we reach the very steep part of the climb. So I think this could all end up closing up a little bit, but we'll see. Sadly, one of the real true climbers has left the series. Paul Podell took part in stages 1 to 6, but he dropped out at stage 7, the previous stage, purely and simply because he's now improved to the point where he's over 3.2, and he's over 3.2 now in all his results. So congratulations, Paul, on breaking that barrier. But as I said in the last race, I'm really sad to lose him, because he really added to this series. Fighting with Tim Cook up the front. So I'm a bit sad to see that he's not here. The other man that I'm missing tonight is my own other teammate, Luke Jeffries. I don't know where Luke is tonight. There's no football on. So we'll have to message him and find out what's happening there. Now, Gary actually messaged me to say that he's not pushing it tonight. He's not feeling well, and that's why you can see that his wattage is pretty low down, under 2.0, and Gary's just going to want to get round. So that's why you see him recovering on the downhills like he's doing. He's not going to put in an awful lot of work because, to use his own words, he's got the lurgy and not feeling very well. So thank you very much, Gary, for turning up when you're not feeling well. Okay, back to Goldberg. Again, as I say, not really sure about this rider. And let's just zoom in and see if we can find out what team. What team is it? Let's swing round. Maybe. I don't know that team, so, or the jersey rather. So I don't know. I don't know who this is. Giving me a wave, so maybe watching. Maybe watching the commentary live, I hope so. If you are watching the commentary riders live, don't forget to give the video a like. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe, and then you can follow not only this full series, but I do a lot of content, or I will be doing throughout the summer, a lot of RGT content. So you can certainly join me in helping to grow the channel. Okay, let's change the view a little bit and see if we can get a view down the road. Let's see. No, we can't see anybody. Steve, mind you, no, there's too far in front. So we go up, you can see Ivo's there. And I don't know whether Ivo's got anybody, you can see anybody in front. No, not quite, it's too far. Too far in front. Sorry, going up, Chris Little. Chris is pushing on nicely, so like I say, by the time we get to the base of the true climb, the red section, I think we could have closed up a little bit. See, these four are staying together, which is a sensible move, but they certainly won't stay together once we hit the climb. There's now Evan is a very good climber, so I expect Evan to be the one that leads these four out. Having said that, I don't know about Hulsemans. I don't know whether he's a climber, a roller, a flat man. I really don't know. So as I say, I haven't had a chance to check out his data. And Yarosh, this is the first time definitely that Yarosh has ridden in this series, so I have no idea what to expect. And as you can see, Tim is trying to push on the front, but he's not going to, he's certainly not going to gap these riders at this point, even if he did put in a huge effort. So there's no point in doing so, and he realizes that he's just not, you know, he's putting in a bit of a dig, but he's not really putting in an over threshold effort, because there's no point. He's going to need all his strength to get up the climb. As I say, this is the surprise to me, because Steve isn't a bad climber at all. And it's a surprise to me that he got caught out and ended up so far down the field. I would have expected him to be with the top three, to be fair. And look, you can see him going above threshold now, trying to pull it back. And I would expect Steve Noble to be there at the end, there or thereabouts. So just the fact that, you know, he's behind now, I don't think that's going to stay that way. I think he's going to catch the field and pass many of them. So we'll see what happens. I'm not sure whether Goldberg has been in the series before. It doesn't ring a bell with me, so perhaps this might be the first ride of the series for Goldberg. Don't know the first names because, as I say, I don't have my rider list, which I usually get from IGTDB prior to the event. But the site's just not working, so... and there's Gary just taking it easy, just coming into the pre-climbs. Now, even the pre-climbs get quite steep. I mean, you saw the sign there, it said 7%, and that's before we hit the climb proper. So these lumps certainly test the legs prior to getting to the climb. Now it does look like, let's just go back a little bit. That's one of the cameras. That's one of the ZMS cameras, camera 5. But Verini has now got going. So well done. I'm putting in a bit of an effort here. He's on the downhill section, but he's still putting in some effort. But let's get back to, let's get all the way back to the front, because they're getting very close to the start of the climb. You can see that Tim already, and we're only on the 3.6% slope, but Tim already is falling off the back. Now the big question is he going to be able to stay, you know, with the other riders as they catch up to him? You know, the other riders like Chris Little and Ivo Librex and Steve Noble, because they're going to catch him. Of that, I've no doubt. And the question is going to be, are they going to pass him and push him further down the field? But to be fair to Tim, he can afford to lose points. He's quite a good margin in front, so he can afford to lose points tonight. Now, there are no bonus points on offer. Normally at the halfway point, we have bonus points. But there's no bonus points on offer tonight because you can see from the climb. I just thought it would be unfair to do so. I think whoever's in front at the halfway point will probably have a good chance of winning the stage. I could be wrong, but we will see. Yeah, Tim's fairly fallen behind here now, as you can clearly see. He's already been gapped by, what is it, 90 meters, and that's going to just go out. Now, I will check the watt kilos of all these riders after the event. I can't do it now. And anybody that is clearly over the 3.2 obviously will be eliminated. But I'm hoping for a fair ride and a fair race. And I'm hoping all these riders are within the 3.2 watt kilo category. So enough on that, and let's see how the battle plays out. Yarosh rather, is looking strong. But Evan is a good climber. So I wouldn't expect Evan to be dropped. And in fact, Evan is one of my... I'll give you my pick once we're about 3, 4, 5 kilometers into the climb. I'll give you my pick for the win. Obviously, I can only tell you what I know about riders that have ridden the series so far. What's worrying me here is Yarosh is not hitting his threshold at 4.4. Now that tells me that he's well over, and Hulselman's is 4.3 and not hitting threshold. So that tells me that they were over the watt kilos. So I'm going to see if I can message them and see if they'll answer. Okay, so I've just messaged the riders to let them know that the front two will more than likely be disqualified. I'm pretty sure they will be. 4.5 from Hulserman's look, and he's not hitting his 4.6, and he's still not hitting. Yeah, he's and 4.8 showed up there, so. Now we'll see what happens with your Roche, but it is look 4.4, 4.5, not hitting. Okay, he's your Roche as well. Okay. Okay, so we've got somebody on YouTube chat, so I'm going to pull that up. Just give me a minute. Let's pull up my studio and get on the YouTube chat. Let's page down. There's Tim. Look, managing to stay in second place. I will get back through the field shortly, guys. I just need to. I need to pull up this. Just so that I can so viewing live control room, there we go. Okay, right, so we've got YouTube chat going on, but let's have a look now and see what's happening with the rest of the race. If we swing Tim round and look up the road, I think you can see that he won't even be able to see any of the riders in front of him. So Tim's not going to catch Evan, but he's currently in second place. Steve's going to catch Tim and go past him, as I said earlier. Now there's the first alarm going off, so that means I have to jump on the bike, folks, just to turn the pedals to make sure I don't get kicked from the event. So I'll just turn the pedals. Okay, there we go. Back in the hot seat. Now, what surprises me is the fact that the flyers, as is normally the case, refuse to answer the chat. You know, I've asked them what kilos. Neither of them have answered, and that's typical flyer behaviour. They come to the events to spoil it, and they don't bother to respond to the messaging. So we're not even gonna look at them again tonight. They're gone. Goodbye and good riddance. It's really sad. And what will also happen, folks, is when I run the event as an open event where there's no watt kilo limit, all these people who have taken part like this and refused to either leave the event or to behave in a correct manner will be banned from the open event. They won't be allowed to take part in that. And in fact, they won't be able to take part in any Team 3R future events. So as I said, Steve's going to catch Tim and go past. So that'll put Tim Cook into third place, which, to be honest, if he could finish in third place, would be a good result for him. But I do think that JG may well catch Tim as well. There's every chance he can, and Chris as well, Chris Little. Although Chris and Tim are on a par, I think. Yeah, Tim's just wishing Steve good luck. So there's the halfway point, and you can see now why I didn't want to give out additional points at the halfway, because we're barely into the climb, and I just didn't think it was fair. So, yeah, and Steve's actually said that he couldn't keep up with Tim. Tim did a really, really good start, a smart move. Yeah, I'm sorry, Urosh, you didn't look what you were signing up for, but it's pretty clear in all the literature, even in the app, it says in capital letters for 3.2 or under. So you knew it was not for you and yet still entered. I'm sorry, I'm not accepting the fact you didn't know what you were signing up for. And the same goes for Hull Summons. So, excuse not accepted, and I hope you leave the event. I'm pretty harsh, folks, but I should be, because this is an event for riders under 3.2 or under, because that's generally seen as introductory racing or beginner racing, or those improving. And the next step up is like Paul Podell has made to anything above 3.2, and you're getting into the realms of B category riders. So I like to try and keep the racing fair, and the only way to do that is to enforce the limits. So while you might think I'm a little bit harsh, I don't think I am. I think I'm pretty fair. And I do give leeway if riders go over the limit, and it's an event where yes, that can happen. Then I'll obviously use discretion. But you can't use discretion when riders so obviously don't belong in the event. Anyway, enough. So Steve, let's just scoop the road to Evan. Evan has got a 450-meter gap on Steve, but I think Steve could close that. Can he close it in time? We shall see. But I think he could close that if... well, we'll see. Tim is definitely losing ground, and you can see that Goldberg, he's still got Steve in sight. So Tim, I said earlier, he will bury himself. He's tough as boots. He's Tim. He won't give up, but he will get caught with. In fact, here we go. Just as I say that, here comes Goldberg, and he's just going to sail on by Tim, which is the correct thing to do, because nothing demoralizes a rider more than a rider coming up behind and going straight on by. And in fact, what I do in this situation is I actually put in an effort and try to go quickly past the rider I've just caught. It looks like JG is listening to the broadcast. He's messaged me in YouTube, so YouTube chat. And Tim has very sportingly said good luck to JG. So, yeah, it's nice to have you on board, sir. Shame you couldn't join the earlier part of the series because you look strong. Now, mentioning the series, as I say, it's no secret that I'm going to run this series as an open where there's no watt kilo limits, and I'm hoping a lot of the riders that are taking part in the lower cat version will actually join in, you know, with the other open version. There's no reason why not. And if we get more riders, which we're very, very likely to do, I'm probably looking at sometime in August, putting it on sometime in August, towards the end of August. And don't forget it runs for 10 weeks. So it's a fairly lengthy series. But this has been well received. I've had a lot of positive feedback. The fact that let me get my words out. ZMS are covering the race, and they've covered previous episodes as well, shows you that it's respected, it's well liked. So I'm pretty pleased about that, to be honest. And I do, as well as preloading my own software up, I actually check to see who else is covering the event prior to it. And when I saw ZMS, I was pretty happy, purely and simply because it means that after the event, when I look back in my footage, I'll also check out their footage and see, you know, what I missed out on, because sometimes I miss out on some of the action in certain parts of the race. On a climb like this, commentating is a little bit of, as Eric just going under the halfway point, is a little bit more difficult because all the riders are going to be pretty well spread out. You can see Gary is catching Boniver, which surprises me because Gary did say he was going to take it easy and just ride at the back. But I think this is easy for Gary, riding at 2 watt kilos. And Tim's just said that 5% felt like a rest to him. Yeah, well, it will do if you, I mean, let's just go back to the front. We're on 6.5, and this is certainly not the, oh, sorry, not that guy. He's out of the race. Yeah, you can see Evans on the 8.2% section. Steve's on the 7.6. JG 7.6. In fact, JG is catching Steve. So obviously a strong rider. So well done. That's a good catch. And Tim's on the 7.5 section, so not much in it, but look at his heart rate. He's working pretty hard here, folks. Yeah, you got to give it to the lad. He doesn't, you know, he's not a hill climber, but he gives it everything. Proud to have him on the team. And Chris always puts in a really good effort as well. I'm surprised actually that he's not closing. Is it? Well, he is actually. I say he's not. Tim's holding him at the moment, but I think Chris may well close the gap on Tim. He's very, very slowly doing so. If you look, it's 202 now. 202, 203. But it's occasionally dipping down. And I think it'll get below. I bet by the time I get back to them, it's dipped to below 200. So Gary decided to let... no, sorry. Gary's actually overtaken Eric. I think it's Eric Boniver. There's the bricks. The one nice thing that I can see from Tim's riding is he manages to maintain a really nice high cadence, which if you're not a really strong climber is really pretty efficient. I mean, I'd be doing about 50 revs a minute here rather than the 80s. 9.1% look, and his cadence is dropping because he's getting out of the saddle, but still pretty impressive. And Steve Noble, I think you can call Steve a true climber. He's always looked pretty good on the previous climb, so I don't know. I'm not sure whether they'll catch Evan, but I'm gonna hold off calling out the winner. I don't think Evan has got it in the bag. Steve Noble is a really good climber, and Goldberg ahead looks like he could challenge as well. So the race isn't over just because Evan's got a fairly big gap. There's a long way to go. I'm going to have to wait and see what happens. But as I say, commentating, folks, it's a case of filling in the blanks, because there's a lot of just back and forth between the few riders that are on the road. You can see a couple have dropped out now. I'm glad to say that Yarosh has dropped out. Fearsome will probably go all the way, but he's disqualified anyway. So Evan is definitely front man, but he's being caught by Goldberg, and Noble isn't that far behind Goldberg. So yeah, and Tim, if we just go back down the field, look, I'll tell you what we'll do. Let's see if we can actually zoom out and get a better feel. Can we see riders on the road as he comes in onto this straight? Yeah, you can just see in the distance Steve Noble. There you go. So the gap is actually a visual gap now between the two. Now, obviously, Steve will work hard to hold the gap of it. Whether he will manage to do so, we'll have to wait and see. And then if we just have a look at Tim and spin the camera around and look up the road, can Tim see the riders in front of him? I don't think he can. He's 100 meters behind, but because of the bends in the road, he's not got visual sight, which is often, don't forget, he'll be looking from his viewpoint up the road. And quite often, if you can see a rider in front of you, it gives you that extra impetus. In fact, he probably can just see. You can just see where my arrow is, the rider in the distance, which is Steve. So maybe he might be able to see Steve in the distance, and that's giving him like a bit of a virtual carrot to chase. I mean, Chris won't be able to see anybody. He's 330 meters behind. So Chris is in no man's land at the moment, but Ivor's not that far behind him, so they could come together. I mean, Purden's not going to catch. Definitely not going to catch Ivor. I think I can say that quite safely because of the difference in 800 meters. No, it's not. I don't see that gap closing. And Gary is just riding his own. I think Gary, he messaged me and told me about he's not feeling well and said he just wanted to finish. And I really hope he does. I hope he doesn't have to climb up before he's finished. Because this is the kind of stage where once you start it and get on this climb, you really want to finish it. But it's going to be a long, I mean, look, it's just over the halfway point, 42 minutes in. So it's going to be a long ride. It's going to be about 1 hour 30. You know, and that's a long time to be climbing. We're going down back to the front and Evan's managing to keep this gap. The guys behind close up. Excuse me. Close up a little, and then he manages to just pull it out. So he's putting in little digs here and there just to maintain his 600 meters. It was in danger of getting below 600, and now it's 630. So yeah. This is a good ride from Evan to actually maintain his gap, and in fact it's going out slightly. So yeah, there's a very good chance he could keep this going. Too far to go yet to call it, but there is a very good chance he could keep this going to the finish. But there's a long way to go, and you know, riders can start to have a bit of cramp. I usually, if I'm working very close to my threshold when I'm climbing, I tend to get stitches on a regular basis, and I've tried everything and nothing I do stops it happening, and it happens pretty frequently. It's very, very annoying. If I back off slightly, then yeah, but if I push just too hard, and the problem for me is, and I think the reason I get the stitches is I'm struggling with my breathing because of a previous illness. I only have one lung, and I really struggle with my breathing on steeper climbs because I'm a lunatic. I push too hard and then end up in oxygen debt. And I think that helps to bring on the stitch. Oops, let's just get a better view. There we go. But Evan looks like he's working just below his threshold, keeping it going nice and steady. It's a good effort. Almost 700 meters now. So yeah, he's pulling out the gap. And I can see him keeping this to the finish unless he bonks. I have to say, my call at the start of the race, when I saw who was on the start line, I would have called Steve Noble for this stage. But I don't think he's going to catch Evan, and I don't think JG is going to catch Evan. So we'll see what happens. Steve could well end up having a battle with Goldberg, but even that might not be feasible now as he's dropping behind. But let's check out and let's check further back and see what's happening. So there's Goldberg chasing Evan, but I just can't see him pulling this gap back. He does so. He pulls back a few meters, and then Evan seems to put in a more, a bit of an effort and pull it back out again. So it's an interesting battle. And Steve is sort of like pegging the gap at a reasonable distance, which means that later on in the climb, if he's still feeling good, he could potentially close this gap up. But what's amazing to me, folks, is look at Tim. I mean, you just saw his red numbers there. So he's working over threshold. Let's just zoom in on him. See if we can get past the trees. There we go. So he's putting in a huge effort to try and stay within touching distance of the climbers. Now, I said he wouldn't finish in the top 5, but he's going to do so. I really thought that Chris Little might catch him. And if Chris catches him, I think he'll go past. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I know that Chris is a pretty strong rider. He won't give up that easily. But can he pull the gap back? And then if he does, I think he'd put in an effort and go past him. But will he actually be able to catch? Oh, excuse me. I do apologise. And Ivo just looks like he's riding his own race here. I don't know his stats, but I think Ivo is one of the heavier riders, which is why you're seeing him not contesting the front end of the race on this kind of terrain. He certainly contests the front end on rolling or flatter stages. He's right up there with them. I mistook Perdon for another one of the riders that joined the race a few weeks ago and actually was disqualified. So I'm sorry about that. I don't, because Perdon does take part on a regular basis. Sometimes it's difficult to remember riders and the names and this. Really impressed with Gary sticking with it, given that he's not feeling very well. Now, as Eric's pulled over to the side of the road. Now, I hope he gets back and continues the climb, but at the moment it looks like he's not going to do so. So we'll get back. And there's my alarm going off. So what that means, folks, is I have to jump off the chair and jump on the bike. Turn the pedals to keep me in the event. So I make about a dozen revolutions or more. And that's enough to, there we go, sit back down. That's enough to keep me in the race. Just to explain to folks, those that are watching this for the first time, I'm commentating on this RGT race using what's known as spectate mode. Now, spectate mode only allows you to follow for 30 minutes at a time. And if you don't get on your bike and spin the pedals within that 30 minutes, then you're automatically kicked from the race. Now, if it's a group ride, you can rejoin, but obviously if it's a race, you can't rejoin. And I've been caught out a few times by not being able to rejoin the race when I've forgotten to set alarms. So I've actually programmed them into my iPhone and I've left them there so that they're there for the rest of the series, so that I don't forget to get back on the bike. And I should really have done that right from the start of the series, because, like I say, a couple of times I've been caught out and caught short. But I'm only human. I enjoy commentating on the races. A race like this, though, doesn't give me a lot of options for discussing tactics and what's going to happen in the race, because you can all see what's going to happen in the race. You know, when riders are so far apart, distance-wise, on a huge climb like this, you're not really going to see much change. You are going to see a battle here. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Tim is trying to stay in front of Chris Little, and may well do so. He may well hold off Chris Little, because Tim wants to collect all the points he can. Now, Steve Noble, Tim will never catch Steve Noble. The question is going to be, can Steve Noble stay within touching distance of JG? I don't know your first name. JG. In fact, I'll actually ask. So we'll ask. There we go. So on YouTube chat, I'm asking JG what his name is. So yeah, Steve Noble is actually staying within touching distance of JG, and that could be a really interesting battle between those two. But I think they won't mind me saying, Evan is gone. He's up the road. He's now almost 800 meters in front, and unless something absolutely amazing happens, you know, he blows up, then Evan's got this in the bag. And this is what I mean about commentating on stages like this, on RGT. With such a small field, if it was a bigger field, and in the open event it's going to be a bigger field, but in a small field like this, the result is sort of determined pretty early on in the race, to be fair. So there's not an awful lot I can discuss tactics-wise, apart from this is going to be exciting. I do feel that Jason, so it's Jason Goldberg, I do feel that Jason and Steve Noble, are going to have a battle. I really do, because Steve's actually closing in on Jason now. He's pulled it back to 80 meters. It was, don't forget, it was about 150 at one point. Now you can see Jason just went red there. So Jason's putting in, look, 3.8, 4.1. He knows he's being caught. And he's probably listening to me now. Telling him. I mean, he can see on his screen, so I'm not telling him anything he doesn't know. He can see from his own view of the race on screen, because he's got I'll just show you with the mouse. He's got this rider list just the same as I have here. So he'll be able to see how far behind Steve is. And you can see he put in a bit of an effort there. He went in above his threshold and he pulled out a few more meters. The danger with doing that, folks, is he's going to pay for it later. There's only so many matches you can burn. And Steve Noble is not getting carried away. Look, I mean, let's just go down to Steve and you can see that, okay, Jason put in a dig to pull out a few more meters and Steve just kept it steady. And that's a really good tactic. He'll just keep it steady, slowly ease back to him again. And it's up to Jason. How many matches has Jason got to sort of like pull ahead? So this could be a very exciting and interesting battle. And I don't think it's over yet by a long way, because not only have they got this section, I'll just use the mouse, this section here, they've still got about 5 kilometers to climb before they even start to ease off slightly. And then you can see another section of a few kilometers before they get to this green section where the gradient eases before going into the final part of the climb. I think, I mean, it looks like Chris is listening to me as well. I think Steve could well close up to Jason in the latter part of this climb, because he's doing a more tempered effort, a more steady effort. If Jason sees him closing and continues to try and keep the gap, I just think Steve's steady state will pull him back eventually. That's just my reading of the tactics. And I've seen it happen so many times. I've commentated on races in real life. And actually run races in real life. So and there's Tim, and just look at that. He's holding the gap, and in fact, Chris said he's probably not going to catch Tim, and I tend to agree. I think Tim is just proving that a little bit too strong, where he's not going to and Jason said no more matches, so perhaps he's just going to keep it steady state, and we'll see what happens. I'm so impressed with Tim just managing to peg the gap to Steve Noble up ahead, and then of course Chris is not able to because Tim's putting in that extra effort. Tim's not able to close the gap. He was doing so, but then I think Tim just said, "Okay, let's just work a little bit harder." Ivor's within 200 meters of Chris. Will he close that down? I'll leave you guys and girls to decide, but it's going to be tough. And as we've already said, I can't remember. I don't know if it's Alex Purden. Just riding in absolutely no man's land. 740 meters behind Ivor, in front of him, and almost a kilometre in front of Gary. So he's really just, Purdon's really just in no man's land and riding his own race, which is the correct thing to do when you're in that situation. Ride at your own pace, just nice and steady, keep it at a level that you can maintain, just so that you can finish the stage. And Gary's managed to keep it at around 2.0 and above occasionally, but round about the 2 watt kilos since the beginning of the ride. So, yeah. So I think the interesting battle is, can Tim stay within touching distance of Steve Noble? And if he does so, could he put in a big effort towards the end of the climb, or are the climbers going to pull away from him as we get into the second part, after where you see the climbs breaking up? That's going to be an interesting dynamic. Now you can see that Jason has actually pulled out the gap quite significantly here. But I still don't think it's over. I still think the interesting part of this ride for me is these two, Jason and Steve. Evan's now almost a kilometre to the good. Now, just to add, folks, that the steepest part of the climbs, there's a steep section somewhere here just before you get into where it eases, and then a really steep section just after you do the plateau here. This section here is very steep. And then there's another steep section here just before you see this slight bit of orange. So, and then the kick before you actually start to get onto the finishing plateau. And I think the steeper sections go up to as much as 14%. So it's a pretty difficult climb. And you can see that Evan has now pulled out more than a kilometre. So his lead is growing. He's putting in a huge effort here. I mean, he's maintaining close to his threshold for quite a long period of time here. So this will probably be his highest output of the series. Check and see what the gaps are like behind. So yeah, Jason's pulling out the gap on Steve, but I don't think that's over. I think that can be pulled back. I'm not saying it's going to be, but I think it can be pulled back. But this is what really, I mean, the only thing I can think of here is that Steve must be easing. Well, he obviously is, because for two reasons. You can see that Jason Goldberg is pulling out a gap on Steve, and Steve is losing ground to Tim, quite significant ground as well. So either Steve's in difficulty, he's running out of energy, he might have a stitch or cramp or something, because that's the only thing I can. Steve's a really good climber, and the only thing that explains what's happening here now is that he's struggling. He's obviously struggling because the gap, Jason's pulling out the gap on him now pretty significantly, and Tim Cook is catching him, and that's a huge surprise because Tim is doing less watts than Steve, but still pegging him back. So I don't know. There must be a reason for this that I don't quite understand. because Tim has got him in sight now, and that's going to be like, you know, like a red rag to a bull. That will spur Tim. Well, immediately I say that, you saw Tim going into his over threshold red numbers. So Tim's going to put in a big effort here to catch up with Steve. Okay, Gary's. So Gary has called it a day. Let's just go down and check him out. No, he's left the event. So we can't even check him out because he's left the event. So Perdon, I think it's Alex Perdon, is bringing up the rear, the Lantern Rouge. Then we've got Ivo and Chris. This is a huge surprise to me. And let's swing the camera around and watch the catch. There you go, folks. And this is a steep look at the, you know, this is almost 8%. And Tim's catching him. It's over 8 now. So there's something wrong with Steve here. Either he's running out of energy, he's not allowed for the fact that this is almost the climb itself is about an hour, if not a bit more. Has he allowed? Yeah, Tim is riding a good rhythm, Chris. I agree with you. You know, he's occasionally putting in a few extra watts, but he's riding a really good effort. He's a strong rider. And Tim says he's trying. You always try, Tim. That's why I like commentating on you, because you're a very good competitor. You know, in the rounds that haven't suited you, you've given everything. There you go. Wow. Yeah, well done. That is very, very impressive. Now he's Steve. Whoops, sorry. You see, he's dropping Steve. Now, if Steve had anything left, he would have stayed on his wheel. So Steve's obviously in difficulty, and he won't mind me saying that. And hopefully, we'll find out from Facebook what the problem was at a later time. But it seems to me it's a definite problem. It's either cramp, stitch, or just a complete lack of, you know, running, almost bonking, running out of energy. Having said that, this is a fantastic effort from Tim. So okay, let's check up the road and see what's happening with Jason. So, and Evan, look, Evan has now got a 1.3 kilometer gap. So there's no way on this earth that Evan is going to get caught unless he bonks. And that's not going to happen. Too experienced a rider. So Team 3R are doing well tonight. Sadly, Gary's had to leave. And I can't ride. But yeah. I mean, This was supposed to be a team series, but to be fair, no other teams really put in the amount of riders to challenge Team 3R. So we won the series even before the halfway point. There's no way we could be caught, and that's without having a full field ourselves. So it's a little bit sad actually, because it would have been nice to have run a proper team series as well as the individual. So this has turned into an individual competition, and I've just dropped the team series. I don't even show the results for it because it's so one-sided. Now, hopefully, when we get into throwing it open to everybody, we'll have teams like OTR, Team Lou, and other people who are above 3.2 taking part, and OTR in particular will definitely be able to field a full team, as will Lou. Herd should be able to field a full team. Can't think of any others, but yeah, Dirt should be able to field a full team. This is in the open when we throw it open. So hopefully we will have a proper team competition. And the competition between 3R and OTR will always be pretty heated, because OTR are an established team, 3R are up and coming, but have got some really cracking riders now. So I don't know what happened to Luke, my other teammate tonight, Luke Jeffries. He would have been up there putting the points in. But Evans riding really smoothly, really well, really smoothly. Jason has also got a good cadence, look. You can tell he's working from his heart rate, so it's not like he's taking it easy. I mean, I don't know what his maximum is, but 162 is working. It's steady state heart rate. I mean, Tim, yeah. You don't have to look at his heart rate to know he's working, because he always works. Well done, Steve. Steve's caught back up to him, so well done. Let's see if we can highlight Steve. No, come on, there's Steve. Yeah. So high cadence, and he's got back on terms with Tim. Now there's my alarm going off again. 1:15 into the ride, so we'll just jump back on the bike. But what I'm going to have to do is, I didn't allow for another 25 minutes, and I don't think this ride is going to be finished in 25 minutes, so I'm going to have to set another couple of alarms. I think it's going to go on longer than I expected. Okay, that's me back into the event. Let's I stay with these two while I just set another alarm on my iPhone. So what we got? 45, 22:20. Save that one. Okay. No, that doesn't work, does it? Don't be an idiot. 22.10, that should do. Don't want to get kicked out right at the last minute, that's the thing. Okay, let's get back to the action and see what's happening up front. So Jason, he's managing to hold Evan. It was 1.3, it's still 1.3. So he's managing to hold Evan, but we are into the, if you look where the white paddle is, I'll just show you on screen with the mouse. Now the white paddle shows where the currently highlighted rider is. Doesn't show the leader's here, as you can see. So there's a really good gap between the two, which if I page up, there's Evan, and you can see the paddle's now on Evan, and that's the paddle to Jason, and then there's the paddle to Tim and Steve. Now these two are staying together here, but I suspect that once they get past this next green section, they'll split up again. So we'll see what happens there. And Chris is just, he's almost a kilometre behind now. So Chris's aim here is to stay in front of Ivo, who's busy chasing him. 300-metre gap he's got, so he may be able to hold that. And then obviously Mr. Purden is still in no man's land, but it's not out of the realms of possibility that he could catch up with Ivo. So in fact the gap is coming down, so we'll see what happens there. That's an interesting little dynamic battle for the Lantern Rouge, but this isn't going to change. So those, I think 6, 7 and 8 could change around, could swap around, but they're certainly not going to affect these. Now Tim is in front of Steve, but again you can see we're on the flatter section, so you'd expect Tim to pull out a lead here, but I would also expect Steve, if he's back to feeling good, will pull the gap back once we get onto the climb again. Jason has actually eaten into Evan's lead. You can see it's down to 1.2 now, it was 1.3. So, but having said that, look, he's on the 12.5. I mean, this is cool. I did say that this was one of the steeper sections. I pointed this out, and they've a couple of steeper sections still to go. And after an hour and 20 minutes of riding, folks, believe you me, that 12% will have hurt. And I'm pretty sure it goes up to 14% at one point. I don't know exactly where. Evan's approaching the steeper section, another steep section, very quickly coming up. So in fact, we'll stay with Evan and watch him tackle this as he approaches this steeper section. Then we'll drop back and see what's happening with Jason and Tim and Steve. I just want to see what this steeper gradient tops out at. You can see it starts to climb now, and it gets ever steeper now. Yeah, Jason has just said 14%, so obviously he's just climbed the 14% I mentioned. Yeah, it gets really steep here on this, just before he gets to the top of this hill. I'm not sure exactly how steep this section is, but I know it does. you can see it's 10.7 now. Now, is it going to ease off or is it going to actually climb? We'll find out in a moment. There you go, 11.7. And I think it still ramps up a little more. Yeah, there you go. So it's pretty cool, folks. 1 hour and 22 minutes into the climb, and they're climbing, 12% plus gradients. That's got to hurt. It doesn't matter how good you are. That's got to hurt. Okay, we'll leave Evan for the time being because the gradient is now going to ease slightly for him. Jason has not yet reached that steep section. He's got that to look forward to. You can see Steve's coming up to one of the steep sections now. And then Tim has dropped back behind Steve by 70 odd meters, which as I say, I expected. Now, I don't know what the problem was with Steve in the middle section there, because he's riding strong again. So perhaps I'll find out at a later time. But just looking at his watt kilos now, he's pushing out, more than he was earlier, and you'd expect it to be the other way around if he was pretty strong earlier. So I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I will try and find out by asking in the forum later. So Chris has just finished the easiest, I'm saying easier, the green section, and is now at the foothill of the steepest part of the climbs. And he's a good way in front of Ivor. So Ivor's the gap there is sort of swapped around, as you can see. It's a fairly big gap to Ivor, and then it's a fairly decent gap to Chris. So that may well stay status quo in that order. We shall see. Tim's steady away. His legs will be feeling really tired now, but he's still putting in a really good effort. And if you look at the distance to Steve in front of him, it's only 125 meters. So he's not allowing it to grow to a silly distance. He's still potentially within pullback, but I don't think he will do so because for some reason Steve is now looking like his old self and looking the stronger of the two riders. When I say stronger, I mean Steve is a much lighter, well, I'm saying much, he's a lighter rider and more of a climber than Tim is, which is why you're seeing him pulling out the gap now. And he's putting in really good wattage here. So there was obviously an issue earlier on. I know I keep going back to it, folks, but it's really difficult to know what the problem was. I can only speculate that it was a cram stitch or he just ran out of energy and then has obviously topped himself up again. Who knows? Jason is doing a really good ride here, by keeping the gap to Evan at 1.3. He got it down to 1.2. He's pegged it at 1.3 now, and it looks steady at that. But I think, to be fair to Evan, Evan is just cruising now. He's almost at the finish. The race has actually taken longer than I thought it would for the winner. I expected it to be about 1:15, 1:20. It's going to be more like 1:30. So a little bit longer than I expected. I knew it was a tough stage. But Evan's home and dry now. As you can clearly see, we're going to stay with him until he gets to the finish. Let's pull it round and watch the finish banner. So this is quite surprising because you can see from the profile, I thought the finish was somewhere along this green line, but it appears that the finish is going to finish on the climb, which from the look of it, it's going to do. It's going to actually finish on the upslope. Or is it? Starting to ease off now. 500 meters to go. So this is your winner coming home. He's actually pulling out his gap slightly on Jason behind, but you know, he's on the easier ground now. So fabulous effort. So once he turns this corner, he'll actually be able to see the finish banner. Around this long left-hand bend, and you should be able to see the finish banner up ahead. Still steep though, 7.5%. This has got to be cruel. I mean, you're hoping it just eases off to let you finish in style, but you can see it's not doing so. There we go, 200 meters to go. Here we go, it's easing off. And there's the banner. There's the finish banner, 90 meters. Hey, well done, Evan. Brilliant ride, mate. Very, very impressive. Very good ride. Well done. Here's Jason. I mean, in the end, you made it look easy, Evan, winning by 1.7 kilometers, but you kept it going nice and steady all the way through. So a really good race, good tactics, good race. Now the question is, can Steve Noble, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out a little bit and see if we can pan back. Whoops. No, we can't see Steve behind. I'll switch the view around again once we get a bit further up the climb, but yeah, Steve's not going to catch Jason. I don't think so anyway. I don't think he can pull back 140 meters on the climb in 1.7 kilometers. Just don't think he can do that. And Tim won't catch Steve either. So the positions are going to be, Evan's going to finish first, Jason will finish second, Steve will finish third. Tim will finish fourth. So he's proved me wrong. I said he wouldn't finish that high. Well done, Tim. I'm glad to be proved wrong. Should have known better. Chris Little will finish fifth. And Ivo will finish sixth. And I think it's Alec or Alex Perdon will finish seventh. And I'll bring up the rear, having not ridden at all. Okay, well done, folks. Brilliant. So we're going to stay with all the riders. I'm not going to end my coverage just because we've watched the leaders coming into the finish. I'm going to stay with the coverage right to the very end and to the last rider, which is Mr. Purdon has come over the line. Only fair to do so after the riders have put in such a fantastic effort. I'm just telling Evan that I couldn't check. There we go. What I can do is, well done, Jason, under the 1 kilometre to go banner. So what I can do is, let's just spin around so that we get you going the right way. There you go. Now, I can pull up the, very quickly, before you get to the finish, I can pull up the RGT website, which is still not working, look, for events, but the results should be there. So, in fact, no, it's not. So for some reason, folks, we can't even pull up the results. The website's down. The RGTDB website. Well, it is for me anyway. I don't know whether it's down for everybody. But looking at it, yeah, it looks like, look, I click on events and it says no matching records. So I'm going to close it down because there's no point in keeping it going, and return to Jason. Watch him come in this final section. But there's no two ways about it. The first two riders so nice to have you on board, Jason. Just pull up the website again. Yeah, so there we go. So what we got left, Jason's got 500 meters to go. Let's just very quickly get back on the screen and see if we can check. Find the mouse. Come on. Where's my mouse gone? There it is. Yeah, there we go. So Steve's got 600 meters. Tim's got 900, 1.7 from Chris, and 1.8 from Ivo. So, oh, and sorry, Alex Burden, 2.6. So we haven't got that long to wait, folks, for the tail enders to come in. Jason's got 400 meters, just short off to finish off the ride. Yeah, you say he wasn't planning on this long, Jason. This is the Queen stage, mate. So it was always going to be a long one, and it was always going to be by far the most difficult. I mean, you've just completed one of the most iconic climbs on the island of Sicily, Mount Etna. So you should be proud of yourself. And there's the finish banner, Jason. Well done. Top marks. Nice to have you on board. I hope you join the rest of the series. Okay, let's find out. See, Steve wasn't that far behind you. Well done, Steve. You just couldn't quite catch him in the end. But great riding by everybody. There you go. I mean, I have to applaud the riders for the effort they've put in, because they've worked really hard on this. This is a very, very hard stage to do virtually, folks. I mean, to do a climb like this, you can see they've been riding for 1 hour and 40 minutes. That's pretty tough to do on a virtual trainer. It's not like riding in real life, where you can get some relief. It's a lot harder riding indoors. Oh, now then, the question is, I'm going to have to jump on the bike, because obviously, while I can get Tim, then I would miss the others. So I'm just going to turn the pedals for the last time. Steve Noble saying could have been a bit tougher. Yeah. That's the toughest stage of the tour. In fact, cool. I'll have to answer that comment. Be careful what you ask for, Steve. So here's Tim coming into the finish. Let's just pull the finishing straight into view. There we go. Well done, Tim. Really good ride, mate. So impressed with you. Genuinely thought you'd be a little bit further down the field, but I should have known better. Well done. Yeah, confirming the #1 spot, of course. And well deserved, because when you look at the efforts he's putting on every stage. And Chris isn't that far behind the front group. So this is a really good ride as well. And Ivo's catching you, so you better. Let's just page down to Ivo. Yeah, he's not that far behind you, 130 metres. I don't think he's going to catch you, but yeah, didn't expect him to see him that close to you at the end. I mean, this is brutal. It goes up to 12% just before you finish. Yeah. A tough climb for sure. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm yawning like a good one here. Early starts with the children in the morning and then late nights. I'm always tired. Yes, Evan, we'll see you next week, sir. Well done, everybody. I mean, just an amazing race. I'm so impressed. I mean, I didn't expect it to go on this long, I'll be honest. I underestimated just how long this climb was going to take everybody. Brutal is the word. An hour and 44. Well, an hour and 45 by the time Chris gets over the line. And Mr. Purden's a further kilometre back, so yeah. That's quite a day out. It's been a very easy race to commentate on, but I have really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed sitting here and watching the riders. And there's been a few interesting battles. It's not been the kind of battle you get on a more flatter section or a rolling section, but it's been interesting nevertheless. Watching the riders duke it out. So, yeah. There you go, Chris. There's the banner, which you can now see. Well done. Okay, Lantern Rouge. Oh, no, sorry. You're not Lantern Rouge. Mr. Perdo is Lantern Rouge. There we go. There's the banner. It's coming into view. Well done, Ivo. By his own admission, Ivo is not a hill climber, so well done for sticking with it, sir, and finishing. And there's Mr. Purdon just going under the kilometre to go banner. So we're finishing up nicely. A total time of around about 1:50, I think, give or take, which is a long, long night. A long night. Both as a commentator and for you riders. You don't usually sit around this long. So folks, we're back next week for stage 9. 2 more stages to go. Stage 9 next week, and unless I'm mistaken, it's a rolling section, I think. Excuse me. Yeah, I think we're into rolling territory next week, and then I think we finish with a hilly section on the final stage. So a chance for Tim to score more points certainly next week. It will suit him. But he's pretty much cementing his leaderboard placing tonight with such a good ride. Like I say, I expected him to finish further down the field, but he's put in a very strong performance. But thanks everybody for turning up. Don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. I put in a lot of work, well, obviously almost 2 hours tonight and more, because I was online before. So I put in a lot of work to try and build this channel, folks, and build, promote RGT. So show a bit of support back by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And here comes Purdon coming home, last rider. Well done. Thank you everybody for taking part. So it just remains to say thanks everybody for watching. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye for now.